because the statute of limitations is up. My children are like 30 right now. So
That's up to
I just
you.
wanted
We just
I just wanted
prefer
to share.
we just prefer to tell people that may not be in your position, right? Not to use names if it could affect them. But you can say what you want. Like, it's totally up to you. It's your story, right? It's your truth. So it's no real true limitations, but just be respectful. That's all we ask.
Yeah.
Thank you. So when I was in college, I met my
Hold
kid's
on, wait, wait,
father.
Wait, wait, wait,
wait.
wait, wait.
We gonna get there. We gonna get there. First, well, you already told the people you from New York.
Yes,
How many kids do you have,
I have two,
and how many of them is being alienated? All of them, both.
both of them.
How old are they?
Well, my son is 30 and my daughter is 28.
Okay, so when did the alienation start?
The alienation started around 2002.
Okay,
Um,
so how old were they at that time?
in 2002, my son was about 7 and my daughter was about 5.
Okay.
Okay, so
Um,
was you married? Was it a situationship?
Because who's alienating them? Is it the other parent?
yes. So the thing is that I was married to my kid's father, and we had gotten divorced. So towards the end of after we got divorced, maybe for like 6, 7 months, we were living in the same house, but
Okay.
sleeping in separate bedrooms type of thing. Excuse me. And
Okay.
so
So
one
who
day
caused the divorce? Whose decision
I
was it
filed for
to?
divorce. I
Why?
filed for divorce because he was abusive.
Okay.
He was
Okay.
very abusive. I'm not going to call him narcissistic because that's the word that everybody uses today. I'm
Yeah.
just going to say that he was very physically abusive. And
Okay.
I couldn't take that anymore. And I wanted to be free because I didn't really experience many people at that time. So when I was
So
getting,
once you filed for divorce, you
yes,
stayed in a home with him. You said 6 months following the divorce. You still were in the same household with the kids together, right?
yes,
What was that like?
it was horrible. I developed a heroin addiction at that time because I just couldn't deal with, his like yelling and his abuse and like I was just always like a shell of a person at that time. So I started using drugs to self-care.
Mm.
And listen, although using drugs is something negative, at that time when I lost my children, I lost my apartment, I was divorced, I didn't know what I was gonna do next. At that time, that was the only thing that held me down because I didn't have much of a support system. Um,
But why did you
so
choose? Why did you choose drugs?
I don't know. I don't know. It's sort of kind of
Was it
just
the environment you was in, or the people you was dealing with, or
no, it was more like the pain that I was going through. And
Was he a user as well?
no, actually he wasn't. And something strange about that is that his other baby mother and the girl before that, they also turned into drug addicts while they were with him.
Hmm. Hmm.
so? Do you think? I mean,
I mean, you're openly saying that you chose to partake in drug use. You don't
Yes.
think that you were
drugs.
right drug, like you don't think he played a part in any of that, right?
Well, ultimately I was the one that made the decision to use. So I
Okay.
can't blame anybody for me using drugs.
Okay.
Um, I used drugs to get over the pain of the abuse that I was going through at the time.
So the other women that was a part of his life and have children with him as well, they chose the same choice of drug.
No,
Oh, okay, but just you're saying
yeah,
that they ended up
Yeah.
having an addiction, which
yes,
could just be for their own personal reasons as well, and probably not. It seems like he could be the common denominator, but of course, people tend to go that route for their own personal reasons. So,
I look at patterns.
So you
I look
think
at patterns.
that it has something to do with something that you experienced as well, that they may have
Yes,
went through the same thing.
yes.
Okay. So all right, before we jump into it, before we start at the top, we always ask this question. Uh who's the deadbeat?
I'm gonna share liability on being the deadbeat, and as we get into my story, you understand why. I can honestly say that sometimes I was the deadbeat because I was probably high on drugs a lot and couldn't go see my kids. But then again, he was the deadbeat because they were in these 20 years, there was plenty of times that I have gotten clean and went to go see my kids and got met, I was met at the door with the whole, oh, you're not going to see the kids, you have to go to court. Because usually when people have custody of other people's children, they'll put laws on you that not even the judge would even order something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So that I went through a lot of that. I wasn't able to go to the school. He didn't allow me to even go to school plays or anything like that. He
Man.
would tell my children that I was coming, but I wasn't coming because I would call and tell him I wanted to come. And he would say no. Like on Mother's Day, he would take my children to his mother's day, to his mother's house on Mother's Day, and not to see me. So, things like that. He was the deadbeat as well, because there were times that I was clean for a year, 2 years, 3 years. I've been clean for 16 years. And the same narrative is permeating in their heads,
Let's
like
take
I'm
a
a bad
step. Let's take
person.
a step back because I know viewers they're gonna want to know this. So you say
Yes.
you guys got divorced and you stayed in the home with him 6 months or so afterwards. How did he end up with custody? Did you just
Okay.
walk away because you were struggling with an addiction, or did you guys was that part of the divorce decree that he would have full custody?
No. So what happened was I was angry because I had to take some type of placement state test or something. And he had told me, "Oh, well, you got to take the kids with you." And I'm like, "From Jersey City to Trenton? That's impossible on a Saturday." And they were like really young. So I just like slammed the door, like, because he didn't want me leaving my kids with my mother. And it's like weird. Why can't they be with their grandmother? Because after I left the home, that's who they stayed with. Um, so I left the house. He called the police on me because I slammed the door and I left the house. I went to my mother's house for like one night and then I got my apartment through the money from the divorce settlement. And I
But you
just,
guys had joint custody, right?
yes, when we got divorced, we did have joint custody.
Okay, so
Um,
what put him in a position to have all the power? Like,
Yes, was he the custodial parent or was you the custodial parent?
we had joint custody, whereas we can both have the children and co-parent. So one weekend when I was living on my own and having the kids for my time, he had took extra hours overtime and he wanted me to stay with the kids and I told him I couldn't because I had other commitments. And Monday I'm at my job in City Hall as they called me into court for order to show cause.
so
And
he was the custodial parent, so the kids lived with him most of the time.
no, so we would do the custody exchange on like a Wednesday afternoon. So they'll be half the week with me and half the week with him. We
Okay.
So
both
let me ask
live,
you this. So what was the time split? Was it 50-50? Was it 60-40?
it was 50-50.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
There
Okay.
was one day that they woke up at their father's house and went to sleep at my house.
Okay.
Got you. So why didn't you stay at the house? Like y'all, because I'm quite sure y'all had a life together. Y'all was married, right?
Yes.
So why
And
did she leave? Why didn't he leave? I'm just asking. Curious.
okay, so I left because he always said, "It's my house, it's my house, it's my house." And I said, "You know what? I'm tired of hearing it's his house. I'm tired of living under his rules. So, you know what? You called the cops, you want me to leave? Say no more. I'm out." and I
Okay.
left. I just got tired of it.
So
He
you
wore
went
me
into a
down
job.
too.
Okay. He what?
He wore me down, like
Oh, wore you
mentally,
down. Okay.
stressing me out, trying to make me do things like not sexual, but just like trying to do things where I have more time with the children than him, and he'll only be with them on Sundays, so it wasn't really
So
working out.
so all right, let me take a step back real quick.
Yes.
So what made you file for divorce? I know you said that it was a he was abusive, but what was that final straw that you was just like, no, I can't do this no more?
The final straw is when he was yelling at me. He just started like an argument, and I just started hitting him, and then he started hitting me back because like at some point I just got tired of him and just started reactively being abused by him. So like I don't know, I just couldn't take it anymore.
Okay.
My mental was not at where it was supposed to be. He was very controlling. Even though we weren't married, he still tried to impose rules on me, like you got to be back at this time. And I'm like a grown woman. And at that time, I was doing a lot of events in Jersey City because I worked at City Hall. So it was like I can't get back at 10 o'clock at
So
night.
so at this time was you on drugs at this time or not at the beginning when y'all was doing the exchanges?
That was the beginning of my addiction.
So that's what he used against you to get the full custody. Is that how he
Yes,
wanted full custody?
after knowingly after knowing that I was on heroin for about a year and a half, he went one day to court and said she's on heroin and I want to take her away from my children. At that time we wasn't legal, so they would have saw weed and heroin on my urine test. So I was the deadbeat on that
Did
one.
Okay, so did you
I'm
go
gonna
to
admit that.
court? Did you go to
Yes, I
court?
did go to
Did
court. I
What did
did go
they
to
impose
court.
on you? What was the stipulations for you to become clean so that you could be reunited with the children on your, custody basis?
There was no stipulations ever given because I refused to give a urine test at that time. Like I told you, I was working in City Hall and I was afraid that I was going to lose my job if it was determined in court that I had heroin in my system.
So you didn't follow through with court. So they just granted him
I didn't
full
follow through.
custody.
I went to court that day. I didn't follow through with the urine test, and I wasn't able to get my kids.
So what was the so you weren't able to get your kids, but under what stipulations? What did they tell you that forfeit all your rights or
Refusing to take a drug test in the state of New Jersey automatically makes you positive for the drug test. So,
mm.
so they had no choice. It's the law. And like I
So
said, I'll take accountability for that.
after the court situation and you knew that you were actively doing drugs, so you would not be clean, of course. How
Right.
long did it take for you to go through all this trying to see the kids outside of the courts, him refusing, and then we are here today? Like, because I'm sure you're clean now, right?
Yes, I
So
am.
how long have you been clean?
I haven't done heroin for 16 years.
congratulations.
Congratulations to that.
And so, even with you getting clean, you're saying that you want to share your story on the platform because he still
Yes.
continued to alienate you, even though you.
My daughter's in the military. I've been home. I was a 2016 ICE detainee. Um, I've been home since 2018. Um, my daughter has visited from the military several times in all those years. And the last time, and it just broke my heart because the last time that I spoke to her that she was out here, she acted like I was gonna hurt her or something like that. And that really killed me inside because like I'm not even like that. And I don't know. It kind of like opened up my eyes to see that for a while in her life, she's conditioned that she has to run when her mother wants to see her. So I think that that's a maladaptive behavior that she got from her father.
So take us back to when the alienation when it started. Um when did it start?
Because
It
if you
started
weren't complying,
gradually.
wait, before you start, I just want to say this because I don't want people to get it confused because they always like to think that we are biased and we take sides, right? For
Hmm.
the simple fact, if he had a court order and you weren't compliant, would that be alienation at that point? Because you weren't doing your part to follow the court order. So he was following the court order. If you're not in compliance with them and what they're saying, then they wouldn't grant you the kids either.
Not at that time. At that time, um, he and I made agreements that I can come see the kids on this date. There was a time that maybe like a year after that, I went to the program and got clean. Like I quickly got clean and I went to court and established a visitation order that was never followed. I
Mm.
had
Mm.
warrants and I didn't want
We can't hear you.
to
Your
serve.
mic.
I had warrants, and you know that the police are not going to believe me. They're not even going to want to take let me see the kids at my condition.
So basically you saying that you went to court, you took the drug test, you got clean, and you got your rights back.
I didn't get my rights back. I got visitation.
So you got your visitation. Was it supervised or
No, it was regular visitations. Like I can pick
okay?
my
And you
kids up
said
from
so you
school.
saying at that point, with him knowing that he never followed the order.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
So you saying at that point he never followed the order once you got your rights back.
No,
So how long had it been from the time he first went to court to tell them that you were abusing drugs to the time that you got the visitation order?
about a year and a half.
And you hadn't
About
seen
in
the
a year and
kids,
a half.
you hadn't seen them at all in a year and a half.
No, I didn't see them at all in a year and a half. There was times that I went to the house to knock on the door and he would kick one time he kicked me down the stairs. So that was the catalyst of me saying I'm gonna go to court and try to get, some type of court order where he can't hurt me. And he never fulfilled the visitations. He would always say that he was in his mother's house, his sister's house, and, eventually in my son's senior year, he took him out the state to go live in Virginia.
Did he remarry?
No,
So
no,
when he
he's
took him out the state,
actually,
why didn't you go back to court?
because I was on drugs and I was scared that they would take
So
my
so you
urine.
so
So
you
you
got you
relapsed
relapsed.
after the he didn't follow through
Yes,
with the
because
visitation.
you know something, I noticed that a lot of my triggers, because I always say this, I got clean for those kids. And a lot of my triggers were when I was clean and I would go take them Christmas presents, or I would want to just take my daughter for ice cream. It was always a problem. I did go visit with my children, but he gave my son the option whether to come or not, which he should have said, no, you have to go because you have an order. So I never really saw my son on those visits. When I did manage to see my daughter on the visits, he would always, like one time, we set up everything so we could be in my mother's house and visit. And about an hour after we were there, he's like, "Oh, I got you iPods. Remember the little iPods that they used to have with the music?" He was
Yeah.
like, "I got you an iPod. You want to come? You want to come see? You want to come get it?" And he just took her back. Like she wasn't even there an hour.
Oh,
There
so
was
he was
another
playing
time.
those type of games.
Yes. There was another time that she had a Mother's Day service at the church. I was allowed to go, but I was spoken to in the church like I was a bad mother. Like, she grew up without a mother and it's horrible. And I'm like, wait a minute. I was always trying to Be there for my children. What do you mean she grew up without a mother?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's
Hmm.
it's it's not often that we get women on the platform with a story like yours where the father is the one that's doing the alienation. We know it exists, right? But a lot of
Yes.
people don't. And
And it's crazy that they use the court system and they also use your children to abuse you at some points where they tell you, oh, you never did anything for me, but they don't see the child support payments I sent him. So they get,
So you was paying child support too as well?
yeah, I
That
had
that's
to because
so
they're my
let me
children.
ask you this. Why do you think he was alienated? What you think fuel what the fuel was behind it?
I think that he was heartbroken that I left him for drugs because he had told me one time if if it would have been another guy, he could always do better than another man. But how could he compete with drugs?
Mm.
so you feel like the kids still today blame you?
Yes, yes. Well, if they don't blame me, um, I don't know. I think that they're abusing me by proxy because I'm trying to reestablish a relationship with my daughter, and she's telling me I have to be more consistent with my communication. And if you tell me some constructive criticism, with my healing, I'm gonna do whatever it is that you tell me that I need to do that's making me this type of person. So I started consistently communicating with her, but she still continues to ignore my text messages. Um, like I told you, it still goes on to this day, and they're adults. And
So do
there's no
you
way that I can talk to them or anything like that. Because when I do, it's always, oh, don't talk about my father. He raised us. But they don't understand that um, he raised you guys to not love your mother and to think that your mother's the boogeyman. And that's not
yeah,
good because
you
that's
had you
telling
definitely
you half of you is no good.
you definitely had a problem, but he's definitely shouldn't have been telling your kids about your problem. He should have been trying to protect them, their happiness through the whole process. Even though I know it was a struggle on the kids, him, you, and probably other family members that was dealing with your issue, but he definitely shouldn't have been telling them and raising them to hate or dislike you just because you had a addiction. That's he's totally out of line for that.
Did he try to say it was due to safety reasons why he didn't want the kids to go with you?
Also, no, he would never take accountability for that. Also, he was a functional alcoholic and he still is. Every day he'll get out of work and drink at least 12 cans of beer. And he's the one in the family that always has that like let's say it's Thanksgiving, he's always the one that fights with people for no reason.
Hmm. How is the kids'
That's tough.
relationship with him?
That's my daughter's best friend, and my son actually has got no contact with him.
Why?
I'm not sure why, but I know my son is no contact. I
Do
guess
So,
he
he got
talk to
tired of
you?
the behavior.
So he don't talk to you either?
He still doesn't talk to me, but yeah.
I mean, we've learned that alienated children typically build up resentment
Yeah.
over the years and they can grow up and figure out who's the parent that was the problem. On top of, if you said that he was an alcoholic, right, and he was struggling with that, then the kids were a party to that as well. So,
Yes.
we always tell people that are being alienated, kids don't always stay kids, they grow up. And even though, the bad side of things that he did turn them against you, ultimately he turned them against himself as well. And that's
Yes.
another part of it that, it's
alienators
just
don't understand that they doing.
right. It's just it backfires, and so that's what it seems happen with your son. And then the fact, like, how's your daughter and your son's relationship? Are they still close, or they're not close either?
Mm. They're
Yeah.
not as close as they used
because
to be.
because people people that parents that typically alienate their kids, they typically choose uh a favorite child. And that's a lot of times people don't like to talk about that part of it. So from the sounds of it, it looked like your daughter was his pick because she was probably the one that he can manipulate the most, and allow to do the things that he needed her to do. And your son was probably a little rebellious. So with
Yes.
that being so with that being said, that's probably why their relationship got damaged too as well.
But there's a lot
Honestly,
of trauma there, you know. I was gonna say, did you ever consider therapy, just family therapy with your daughter? Did she Was that something she was open to, or no?
well, she's in the military right now, and I try to get therapy with me and my children, but that was something that he wasn't open to. He wasn't even open to letting me go to detox when my habit was beginning to spiral.
What do you
He
mean
would be,
letting you go? What do you mean letting you go to detox?
all right, well, not letting me go to detox, but like he would tell me, no, you can't go to detox because who's gonna watch the kids while I'm at work?
Mm.
So yeah, it was horrible. I couldn't get off drugs at that time.
Yeah, cause that's tough. I just hate to see it, man, because your kids, they need both parents, and then now they old,
Yeah,
and they still like in their feelings about what happened because they was put in the middle of a lot of bull. And the fact that they was being alienated, and and of course we got to talk about the elephant in the room, that you had an addiction.
yes,
That's what make this a little a tricky situation, as far as them coming to you want to know why certain things happen. And
Have you been able to have that conversation with your daughter? I'm saying being transparent without like being defensive towards her dad, because it's hard not to, because you want to prove your side of things, but you got to understand it just, for her, it's all that she knows. So
yeah,
you have to give her grace to know she was raised and programmed to think
the
a
certain
certain way
about you.
without, you know, the
yes,
tools in place to be able to communicate to her effectively. She's not going to listen to anything that you have to say, especially if it's negative towards her father. So that's why I asked about therapy, because that's a great way to get the reunification part together for you guys outside of trying to do it on your own, because that's just not going to happen, especially with you bringing up their dad. So
yeah.
Yeah,
it's hard not to, but it
But
doesn't help.
how am I gonna tell my story without mentioning him? That's the problem.
The issue is, you tell your story from your point of view as to what you tried to do and what you went through doing it, without trying to mention him as much as possible.
because
The only thing you would say is, I couldn't see you guys, but I did this and I
yeah,
tried
you got
that
to take
and I did
accountability
this.
for what
Not,
you did.
he wouldn't do this and he stopped that and he wouldn't let me this. Just stick to what you
But
tried to do.
because you got to understand that your kids was never put first in those situations. Your ex-husband chose his hate for you over the love for his kids. And I'm not trying to sound harsh or anything like that, but you chose drugs at the time over them. Even though that was the addiction, that's just what it was at the time. So they don't want to hear, they did that. They
The
because
finger
they've been
pointing.
hearing that their whole life.
Yeah.
So they want to hear your love for them and what you wanted to, like my wife just said, for them. They want to
And
hear,
moving forward.
yeah.
Because I know it's hard for you. Like, I try, you know, you feel like if he wasn't in the way, it would be better. And that is
Yeah,
true. That is true. things would have went totally different if he allowed you to be a part of their lives and they wouldn't think about you negatively and just all these things. But you have to get out of the defense mode because too much time has already been wasted.
Yeah,
You have to move forward just trying to rebuild what you can with your
but
kids.
they grown and
Yeah.
they got their own mindset and they think the way they want to think now. Do you have any grandkids?
No, not yet.
Yeah. So
Not yet.
you want to rekindle that in the best way you can, and because you will be having grandkids soon, and it's always a second
Yeah.
start. It's never just the end all, but it's just all about how you go about doing things. So, but let me ask you this question:
Yes.
what would you have done better? Like, what if you can change something? What would you have did to make things better?
I would have went to treatment earlier, got cleaner sooner. Probably not even use drugs if I can go back and not do it.
Yeah.
And probably just went to therapy sooner. Also, I would have not had so many internal conversations where I let whatever he said, permeate into my mind, where it made me feel like, oh man, my kids hate me or I'm a worthless person. It doesn't matter what I do. I'm never gonna be with them. I'm never gonna have. So it's that negative self-talk that I used to give myself back in the early 2000s.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask you another question. I want you to think very deep, and I mean dig deep for this one. If your kids was listening right now, right, what would you say to them?
If my kids was listening to me right now, I'm always been the mother that you had when you was 5 years old. I'm still that same person, and I'm always gonna have that love for you. That's it.
Okay.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think and we're not therapists, right? So
Right.
when we say this, it's just based off of the experience that we have had going through what we went through with parental alienation, talking to other people who've been through parental alienation. So I don't want to get it confused because they will try to come for us because this is very therapeutic for not
Yes.
just you but us as well, right? Because it's so people don't understand. So not to give that too much attention because I don't give a damn what anybody could possibly think, right?
Yes.
I want you to understand, and if you said it's you in therapy, that's a good thing. But moving forward,
Yes.
you have to give yourself grace and you got to give your kids grace and you have to remove their father out of the equation. It's not about him anymore. It's tough because a lot of times life doesn't go the way that we want it to, right? And that's cliche, but it's the truth. You cannot get that time back. It's no sense in focusing on the past.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yes.
past is stealing your joy for the future, and time is only ticking. And so, if you want to prove to your children that you want to be better, even if it takes them time to forgive, that's what you pray about. That's what you talk to God about. Just the reuniting part of it all, because you made a mistake. Everybody knows that. It's no secret. But you don't have to be condemned for the rest of your life about choices that you made many years ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's
You
how
know,
I feel.
even for yourself. No, you don't need to feel that way. Because if you really wholeheartedly want to be a part of your children's lives, whatever their father did does not even matter at this point. It's
Right.
all
And
about,
I
yeah.
and I have my own healing, and I also write,
We can't hear you. Can you
and
repeat that? Can you
You
repeat
said you
that?
right.
I
You right.
write self-help books as well.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Um, So, in writing those books, I was able to tell my story a little more, and I was able to help other people because, like, when people read my books, they always, speak to me about it. But, and even with that, they still, they still have the muscle memory of the whole chaotic upbringing that they had.
Of course. Of course, but you have to understand it's not just about you. Your son is a proven fact of that. He does not deal with his dad. Is you weren't there. So that means that it was some things that were happening that was traumatic for them, right? So understand that you are only 50% of them and he's the other 50%. Not by far because you have caused all 100% of the damage, right? You have
Right.
to know that. And so healing, you need to heal, they need to heal, but you cannot move forward without it, and you cannot talk to them and mention him. He needs to be completely removed out of your conversation with your kids,
And yeah, and you got to be definitely, you definitely got to be consistent. You got to show up. Uh,
Yes.
even when they don't want to. I know that's tough, but
yeah, and
they don't owe you anything, you owe them everything, right? if you want
Right.
to if you want to reconcile.
Yes.
It's all about what
And
you want and what you're seeking. And you have to do what's best to get to that point. Now, of course you can't force them, right? But just know that if you're not consistent, that's gonna put them back in that same feeling of the past of
because,
when they seen that you couldn't show up.
but just, I mean, do they know about any of the times that you got clean and you tried to see them? Do they know about that?
yes, they know about that because at one point in time, my daughter and I were talking like all the time on the phone. It must have been like I had went to court to readjust like because he was acting up to court,
Hmm.
and I was able to have more of a relationship with my daughter. So I tried. I mean, I tried a lot of different methods. I tried everything.
So when
She
that
knew that
was
I was
happening,
clean.
what stopped it to be long term?
Um, what do you mean? What? Oh, because I was just tired of being in the street. I was just tired of living that life, so I just stopped. Yeah, I didn't
No,
stop. I
I'm
went.
saying when you were having a good run with connecting with your daughter and everything was going well, what stopped it from continuing
He
on?
moved them to Virginia.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Moved them to Virginia. She's getting adjusted to a new place. She's meeting new friends. She's doing new things. So she's always out, you know.
So how long was they in Virginia? In Virginia?
Um, I guess they were in Virginia for like 2 years before I went back to jail. Because let me tell you something. I was going in and out of jail, but I would be on the phone, on the jail phone, doing quadratic equations with my children. You understand what I'm saying? So it's,
So what does your daughter say? Like what is her true beef with you? What is some of the things that she says?
um, well, her true beef with me is that she used to have to hide in her closet when I would come visit and cry because her father and I, her father would be like, "Go over there, be quiet. Your mother's coming. You understand what I'm saying?" And she would go and cry in the closet because she wanted to see me. And she felt like I never got clean in order to see them. So I had
Okay.
to remind her of certain programs that I've been to and like because I'm an overachiever, so everywhere I go, I always try to accomplish something. So I kind of had to remind her of the things that I accomplished in drug treatment in
Okay.
order for her to realize, wait a minute, you did. Oh, yeah, I remember we had a cookout and dad didn't want you to come. And he
So
was
what?
telling me not to pick up the phone. Like then,
So
when
how
I
does
would
she
tell her these
express
things,
that? Like what if she doesn't want you to talk about him, right? When she's saying I do remember dad didn't do it. Does she elaborate on her feelings towards him when that was happening, like how that made her feel, or she kind of stays away from that?
she doesn't talk about it with me, but she says, I've had my own conversations with him. So I feel like she's has had the conversation, like, why were you like that? Or at times she probably saw my authentic self and probably said, my mom's not even like that. Or,
Right.
So what about your son? What you think his beef is?
I don't know.
When the last time you talked to him?
It was a while.
What's a while?
The last time I went to court for the custody,
And how long ago have that been?
that was right before he took them to Virginia. I took him to court because he was gonna take the kids out of the state without my permission.
And they didn't grant you that?
No,
That's weird. They supposed to
yeah,
grant
it
you. Was
is.
it what? Was he there longer than 6 months already before you
No,
filed?
he wasn't even there yet. He didn't even leave yet. And he went to court and he was like, "Oh, this is for a job for a better life for my children. I promise that I'll bring the children to visit her." And that didn't happen.
And how long ago was that? As far as years,
2012, so like 12 years.
so you haven't seen your son in 12 years.
And you know that he doesn't have any children.
Yes, because I communicate with my daughter, and that would have been something she would have told me.
Man, that sucks. So where is he
I've
living
reached out
now?
to him. He lives in Virginia.
Okay, man, that sucks.
So, what made you want to join the platform tonight?
I just wanted to tell my story because a lot of the times, and it's not just like your kid's father who takes your children, it'd be like your mother, your sister, when you're on drugs and you know you're going through a hard time, they'll take your children, but then they'll never give them back to you. They'll start putting laws that the judge didn't grant and stuff like that needs to people need to be made aware of that and people also I just want to make sure that if somebody's going through what I went through that you don't wait all these years, you know what I mean, that
Yes,
you, that
that's
you
key.
really that you really stay on your task and try and not take no for an answer and know that somebody's going to hear you and somebody's going to listen to your story by you staying away because you don't want to, you know, be arguing and fighting and looking crazy in front of your kids and stuff. That's fine, but there's always the court system. If you don't like dialing 911, that's fine. A lot of people don't, but you can always walk into a courthouse and they're not gonna arrest you for a warrant because you're getting custody. It's a lot of things like that that I didn't know. I didn't
Hmm.
know that I could have got him to bring my kids to jail when I was locked up. All I had to do was drop a writ, when I was locked up. It's a lot of things that I didn't know that I could do then that I hope that people start looking at their options, especially now that it's not the 90s, it's not the early 2000s. There's so much available right now that, so much support, so much help, so much healing. Um, and I don't know, I also wanted to, talk to you guys about is there any way you think I could do like a civil lawsuit on him for like defamation of character?
I have no clue.
That's not our area,
I
but
never heard it before, but you need
You
to.
know, but I'm gonna do some
why are
research
you still trying to go after this man? Let that
because
rest.
You
Let
have
because
him
to.
go.
you know why maybe I feel like that with him because when I was at my lowest on drugs, on everything, he would kick me down. Maybe if he would have let me see my kids or something like that, that would have made me had the motivation to get off drugs earlier. You understand what I'm saying? But not
At this
feeling
point,
that love and always feeling that
you cannot
rejection, I
blame
don't
him.
know.
You
So
said. You said.
I
Oh,
get
go ahead.
triggered.
you listen at,
Yes.
at your at your big age and at this long journey of struggle, you cannot possibly think you can heal and still be bitter. You cannot heal in the same place that made you sick. If you're thinking about going after him, you are focused on the wrong things. because I'm not sure that life have served him something on a silver platter either. If your son is not talking to him today,
'Cause he had an addiction
you
too.
you need to focus on what you need to focus on, and if you caught up in anything that's not healthy, then I don't see a good outcome. Because what do you
Yeah,
think your daughter is gonna say when she finds out that you're fighting her father yet again in court over something
she hates
silly?
when I do that.
So
It's not worth it.
you said something earlier in the interview that just kind of stuck with me. Uh, and I always like thought about this, but but I never really put no thought into it. You said when I asked you to to talk to your daughter or to your kids, and you said you are still the same mother that you was when they was 5, right? So with that being said, and people tend to talk down on people with addictions, and they treat them a certain type of way. And what they don't really understand is that you have it's an illness, like you doing drugs, but you still who you are on the inside. And the
Yes,
people tend to forget about that part. So you still that good person. You just sick right now. And I just wanted to highlight that part of it because it's a lot of good people. I didn't have conversations throughout my lifetime with people that was addicted to drugs, and they gave me some of the best knowledge that I can take in life because they didn't been down this path that nobody have ever been close to. And I just wanted to highlight that. So if your kids are watching, they do need to understand that you are still with that same person. If it was soft, you still have feelings and everything. It's just you was just sick at that time. So that just sat with me, and I just wanted to highlight that in this interview. But
thank
It,
you.
yeah,
I
it
appreciate that.
definitely it definitely sat with me because my father suffered from a heroin addiction, and it is nothing that anyone or anybody could say to me about my daddy.
I
I
wish
saw
my
him at
kids
his
was like that.
lowest. I saw him at his lowest, but he still loved me. Your kids couldn't get that because it was something, it was a barrier that's stopping them from receiving that, right? So,
Yes,
again, it's about grace. I know you wish that things didn't turn out this way, but it's nothing you can do about it. So you have to move forward. Trying to pursue any type of anything that's not worth anything, because even defamation of character lawsuits don't really render results. Like a lot of people go in and they pay more legal fees than they get whatever compensation they thought they would do to, suing somebody. If it really didn't cause any provable harm to you that you can prove, not just the fact that your kids feel this way and it's a an emotional thing, it's not something that I think you can pursue.
yeah,
And I don't think that it's healthy for you to even keep thinking about it. You have to
yeah,
do, yeah, you got to do and find whatever, dig deep down inside and find that forgiveness to move on.
yeah,
You have to do that. That's essential because there's no way that you can reconnect with your daughter on a level that's healthy and happy for you guys if you're still thinking about the past and all the turmoil and all the bad stuff that was caused, right? Both of you guys, you even said it, were deadbeats. So take that away from this and understand you did bad, he did bad. It's time to move on. It's nothing left to fight for unless you're fighting for the love of your kids still. That's it.
yeah. Because you gotta understand, kids, time equal love when it come to kids. So they don't really understand where you coming from when you talking about the things that he did because the time is gone already. And I feel like you guys have a ton of time left, and you don't want to waste it talking about a guy that means nothing to your life at this point.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
you don't even have to deal with him to talk to your kids at all. So I
As
just
a matter
think,
of fact, I haven't even spoken about him for like a year or two. Like I haven't even like
Make
talked
it two
about him.
more years. Make it 10 more
Yeah,
years. Just
Yeah,
it's over with. That's their father. You have no connection to him. It's nothing there. It's nothing left. It's not your
yeah,
dad. If he did what he did, he has to answer for that. That's not up to you to convict him. He has to deal with that in his own way. And like I said, and I'll say it again, I don't think life was just so beautiful for him to the point that you need to even sit up in any
right.
bitterness. It's
Cause,
time for you to move forward.
he alienated you. He talked down on you about
A
these
person that
kids,
does that cannot possibly be happy with
and you
themselves.
see your sons don't talk to him either.
So,
And I'm
and
quite
I don't
sure
like
your
to sound
daughter
like a
probably,
broken record. I kind of feel like it's kind of a little, redundant.
yeah.
But this is common sense. Like, you need to. Do you have a significant other?
no,
Why?
not at the moment. I just want to focus on writing like two more books that I have,
Okay.
and I got to the point where I don't even trust people anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you need to do whatever it is that you need to do for you to heal, and I mean the right way. I mean for
Yeah,
real. Not just to say I'm healed, because just like that word narcissist, that healing. People say they're healing and they toe up on the inside. So
yeah,
really, really take the time out to do the work for yourself. You've written books, so I know you're well educated on the steps to take. But I do understand that it's just this one thing that you keep struggling with, and it's with him in the past and your kids, and that's like your ultimate challenge, the biggest obstacle, and you're gonna have to try to find some way to overcome it. That's it. That's the only
yeah,
thing we could tell you, because
Yeah. I was.
we understand what it's like
Yeah.
to be, in your shoes, to the point that someone's turning your kids against you. And then you have to deal with the psychological damage and trauma behind it, trying to, just prove yourself. Like, listen, no,
Yeah.
that's not true. I love you. This is me. See me for me. And you just need to just understand that if it's meant to be, that's what will happen. But it's really nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
Don't sit there. It's
right.
been too long. It's
It's
been too
it's
long.
not worth it, especially talking to some kids, because from their eyes they see a dad that was bitter and he did all this crazy stuff, but then on the other end they see a mom that had a drug problem. So when you talking to them and you trying to downplay him, they looking at you like, but you wasn't perfect either.
Exactly.
So it's just
It's
it's
just
just to
going to
leave it
think to
alone.
myself. I
Yeah,
listen. I messed up. I should have did this. I'm not mad at your dad anymore. He did that. We need to move forward. I need to be with you, talk to you, love you, see you. What do I need to do to
yeah.
get? What do we need to do to get to that point? Because whatever that is, I'm gonna do it.
And you see that she said we, because your kids are grown now. So that relationship got to be worked on both ways.
Yes,
So don't feel overwhelmed either. So you got to know,
it's work. It's
yeah,
a lot of work, and
we
Yeah.
rooting for you.
we thank you for coming
Thank
up here
you.
sharing your story. I know that had to take a
Yeah.
lot of courage. You were very transparent. We
Yes.
respect you, for
Yeah.
being honest about the addiction. A lot of people like to leave things out. But yeah, I hope that coming up here talking to us was helpful for you. I know your
Yes.
story will impact somebody who watches it, just for the simple fact, like you said, you gave some great points on not sitting and waiting to take action. That's very, very, very important in any
Yes.
custody
And
battle.
like right now they have these drug programs where they're mother child. So if you're on drugs and they want to take your children, admit to being on drugs and tell them you want to go to a mother child program with them. Don't let anybody take your children from you.
Fair
Okay.
enough.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you
And
so much for joining us. We rooting for you.
Thank
Keep
you.
us
And you have a
posted.
great day.
all
Thanks.
right. All right.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Have a good night.
Good night. How do I get out?
Bye bye.
I got you.
Thank you.